A new film on Netflix called Passing tells the story of African Americans who had their skin color was light enough to be perceived as white. It's based on the 1929 novel by Arthur Nella Larson. Film critic Pam Powell talked to the director about her making her directorial debut.
Rebecca Hall, thank you so much for joining me on WCIA TV to talk about your incredible new film, Passing. The book of the same name, Passing, by
Nella Larson,
yes, from 1929.
That's right.
This has a personal connection to you that I think people might find surprising. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I mean, the sort of short version of the story is that my grandfather, on my mother's side, my mother's American, she was born in Detroit, Michigan, and her father, my grandfather, was black and passed white for most of his life. And as is the case of so many families that have a history of passing in their family, that story is necessarily obscured and hidden, and that history is erased because a family closes in and does what a parent tells them to do and hides that truth. I mean, he didn't even really express the full capacity of his identity to my mother, and she couldn't, as a result, to me. I got given this book, and I mean, there's no sort of easy way to say it. It was huge for me. It was like having language. I didn't have the word passing. My mother didn't either.
Right.
You know, and I was like, well, of course this is what he was doing. Of course this makes sense. This is why my mother doesn't know so many members of his family. This is why everything is so shrouded in this secrecy.
So, as I understand it, the script sat in your drawer for more than a decade. Tell me, what was the impetus for bringing it to life now?
Well, it's not entirely true that it sat in a drawer for a decade.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people say, why did you make this film now? And the sad truth is, I was allowed to make it now. You know, I didn't decide to make it now after 13 years.
Okay.
It did sit in a drawer for 6 years, that is true, but there were a good 7, 8 years of me actively trying to get it made and showing it to people, and people saying to me, you know, at the beginning of that 7-year period, people saying to me things like, this is wonderful, but it's so ambiguous, and it's so different to other kinds of things, and in short, I don't think you'll ever get this made. And then people would say, we love it, but could you make it in color instead of black and white? And I just kept saying, no, there's only one way to do this, and I have a very distinct idea of how it should be, and I don't want to make it any other way. And so there were compromises that had to happen to do it that way, but you know, that was the process. It was a fight. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. It was a real fight.
But you won that fight, and it is in black and white, and you do use an aspect ratio that you think of as being in old times, maybe from the 20s. Tell me about staying true to that and why that was so important to you.
The aspect ratio is, it's funny because a lot of people say, oh, you know, it really transports you to those sort of old movies. And there is some truth to that, but it's not my primary reason for using it. You know, this is absolutely a story about the limits of categories, how nobody can be reduced to one single definition, and how the more bound and restricted or rigid we are about those categories, the more likely we are to combust and spill out the sides, which is really Irene's story, who is really the protagonist on many levels. And, you know, black and white, the irony about black and white is it's not black and white, it's grey, it's complicated, just as, you know, nothing in life that we give these categories to, nothing is singly those categories. And similarly, we have the expression, you know, we're putting someone into a box. So 4-3 for me was about putting them in a box and restricting them and making them feel constrained by the society that they're living in.
And is there anything in making this film that has maybe opened doors for you or maybe changed you personally in looking back on your life and maybe forward as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I now know things about my grandfather which I did not know at the beginning of this process. I know that my great-grandfather, I know his name, John Williams, and I know that he was born enslaved and he moved to Washington, and he was a race man. He was a big upholder of the race, and he ended up working in government. He ended up knowing Frederick Douglass.
Oh, wow.
There is an awful lot to be proud of, and that was sadly erased by my grandfather's choice to pass. and now it is no longer erased, and you know, I have a chance to claw back some of the pride of my heritage.
Very good. Rebecca Hall, thank you for joining me to talk about passing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.